Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I'll give a conservative perspective about the world around me. Feedback is very important. Feel free to reach out. And with the holidays, well, Christmas is right around the corner, and then New Year's and, other holidays. Feel free to reach out to me if you have holiday stories or you have show ideas. It'd be greatly appreciated. All right, so some of the audio platforms that I'm on Speaker, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, just to name a few. So this episode is about the original song, Last Christmas by Wham. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to get into facts, and then I'm just going to, give thoughts as we go here. All right, so it says, what are you doing? All right, it's back. And this is the AI generate response about the song. So it says, Last Christmas by Wham is a 1984 song written and produced by George Michael, who performed all instruments himself during a recording at Vision Studio in London. So, okay. I've said it. If you're this first time listener, welcome. But avid listeners, y'all know that I have a great appreciation. I just think I really like the decade, the 80s. And something about the 80s, it was a time where the aspects of, the best way I can describe it is the aspects of being okay with, being prosperous as far as being able to have abundance towards commercialism, capitalism, and so forth, that wasn't some kind of aspects of being rooted in evil. But on the other hand, there was just a vast appreciation of there was still this order of family and tradition, and then the aspects of modernism with the aspects of aspirations of gains as far as career-wise. All of these things were merging together and blending together in a cohesive way. And then when we look, this is our imitating life, and that's really a true saying. And when we look at the music and we look at the aspects of movies and so forth, it was really grounded in reality, and that was something that wasn't represented wholeheartedly before the 80s. All right, so jumping into a band like Wham, some people say that with new wave and other pop artists, this was a quote unquote, I guess, second wave of the British invasion. And a band like Wham, it was interesting how, unfortunately, George Michael is no longer with us. And then, his accompaniment, which is quite interesting because he had the perspective of, I'm going to ride the wave of the fame that we have with music. And then, and that's a good perspective to have. And he just, when it's over, it's over. And he just went off and he did his thing. And if I'm not mistaken, with racing cars and, automotive stuff. And then if I'm not mistaken too, I think he married one of the the girl group, Bananarama, one of the leading vocals from that band. All right, so getting back to Wham, they were a really good example of changing the elements of what could be done with pop. Because that's what was really good about the 80s. It was an outlet for artists to redefine what the perspective of pop could be. And so Wham, I think the reason why they were as successful, and they're still successful today, they were able to understand what was current and relevant, and also relatable to a lot of people, to where it's something that anybody could relate to, and then that gets into ground of being timeless. So what am I saying about all these concepts here? All right, so it's one thing to be trendy. So, essentially when something is trendy, something is, in a sense, it's not a permanent stature, because it's only looking at the now, here and now, But when you add extra elements to the aspects of something, that's when you get into the aspects of talking about something that can be more stable, and to the fact of other generations being able to relate to it as time goes on. And so, this song, Last Christmas, has been recovered and re-sung by different pop artists, including Taylor Swift all the way to Ariana Grande. And it's quite interesting because with their whole niche, I guess you can say, when it comes to female vocals and pop, I would say, sorry, you Swifties out there in the Ariana Grande, whatever it is called, the people who like Ariana Grande. I would say, from a respectable critique, that even though that it is, someone like Taylor Swift is quite unique when she's like pushing 40, but she's still in the aspects of being able to pull off to be still relevant to a younger crowd, whereas preteen and teenager. And then Ariana Grande, they had whole aspects of her pop career, and then the advent, unfortunately, with Wicked, going in a strange direction. On the essence, these things are temporary, even though to me, because so with Taylor Swift, even though she's married now, and good for her, and she's more, I don't know, I guess, to me, it seems like it's more superficial grounding. I don't get in the business of, with that glitter, pay attention to the glitterati. But it's ignorant to say that, that's not something to pay attention to, because, my channel is about society and culture. And then when you think about it here, music is society, and at the forefront is a reflection of society and our culture. Okay, so, Taylor Swift has built a career, has built her fame, her fortune on heartbreak. And so that's something that is unstable, to where there's no room for growth and development. But we'll see how that plays out with her marriage, and how that will fluctuate with her career. Just let's be honest, that is part of the imagery with entertainment. And that's the weird blur line, and it's really commendable when there are entertainers that know how to separate those and blend those things well in a cohesive way, in a professional way when need be. And so with Ariana Grande, let's be honest, she is riding the wave just like Sabrina Carpenter with the aspects of sex sells. And that's what the version of her interpretation about Last Christmas was. It was all, highly sexualized and, very suggestive innuendos. And see, those sort of things, they only last for so long. But, getting back to Wham, even though, they there was very different dispositions about the foresight of the group. The most of the time, the songs that were sung and written, they really delve deep into the aspects of human emotion. All right, so let's get back to it. So despite the festive title, the song is a poignant reflection on a failed relationship that began on Christmas Day and ended the following day, with Michael expressing heartbreak and a sense of betrayal. Its release was a double A side with Everything She Wants and initially peaked at number 2 on the UK charts. Blocked from the Christmas number 1 spot by the charity song Do They Know It's Christmas. If y'all are interested, last year I did a in-depth analysis and thought and facts about that song, and go check it out. It's entitled Do They Know It's Christmas, 1984. All right, so getting back, say blocked from the Christmas number 1 spot by a charity single Do They Know It's Christmas, a song Michael also contributed to and for which Wham did contribute, and they donated the royalties to the Ethiopian famine relief effort. So the song has become the highest selling UK single never to reach number 1, with over 5.34 million sales, including streams, as of December 2023. So it reached number 1 in the UK single chart for the first time on January 1st, which was 2021. And it is breaking the record for the longest time taken to reach the top spot after initial release. So in 2023 and in 2024, Last Christmas became a Christmas number 1 for 2 consecutive years, making it the first song to achieve that feat. As of December 2025, it has currently ranked at number 3 on the UK single chart, having spent 5 weeks in the top 10. So the song has topped charts in multiple countries, including Germany, Ireland, Austria, and Sweden. And it is the most successful Christmas single in Germany's chart history, with 169 weeks on the chart. It has been covered by numerous artists, including Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, also including Backstreet Boys, with the 2019 film Last Christmas featuring the song and soundtrack composed entirely of Wham and George Michael's tracks. The music video, directed by Andy Moran, was the first time George Michael appeared on screen without a beard and features a narrative of unrequited love beneath a cheerful surface. However, there was a legal dispute with Barry Manilow over similarities in his 1978 song Can't Smile Without You, which was dismissed in court after evidence showed similar melodies were common in popular music. So this is quite interesting. And so I'm going to delve into this and talk about this more when it comes in the Advent and the New Year with rap music. So, I don't know. And then that gets into the aspects of how fickle and just, I don't know, unwelcoming the music industry can be when it comes to matters like this. So, look at it like this here. This is how I look at it. There's a saying that says that essentially every story has been told already, but it's up to the creator to retell it in a way that is unique and original, to where it doesn't seem like it's something that has been just overtly copied. And there's also a saying that says that imitation is a form of flattery. So that could be inspirations. It could be something like that, just because something sounds similar doesn't mean it is, and that's goes without saying. And then going back to rap, how is it that? But there are instances where it's just overtly just plagiarism and just taking without giving credit, to the artist. But how is it that most of the time with rap music, there's a lot of mixing and sampling as it's quoted? But, that's perfectly fine. And I guess in the means of that is perfectly fine because they give respect and royalties to the person who originally created the sound. But that's not always the case. And, of course, there has been notable court cases about, just plagiarizing and quote unquote, giving the benefactor of saying that this was just sampling. But I'll end on this and then get into some more facts. So, for instance, Vanilla Ice. Now, I think that Vanilla Ice was very commendable. And it's unfortunate that he was pegged as a one-hit wonder when he has, more talent than that. And then, everybody has their own opinion about everything. That's just how the world goes, and that's great. But to be quite honest about it and just see things for what it is, that's a good thing. That's a good thing, quality to have here. So from my point of view, it just seemed as if Vanilla Ice was getting a lot of heat because he happens to be white, and then people were unfortunately having the preconceived notion that he didn't take rap music or the rap industry seriously, which he did. And they were just trying to pigeonhole him into something by trying to go after him and say, oh, he's just a sellout. He's not trying to do this. And then also going in the aspects of saying with his song Ice Ice Baby that he just plagiarized from Under Pressure from the quintessential song duo that was by David Bowie and Queen, Freddie Mercury, when that just wasn't the case. And then he was trying to present himself and say everything, and they just railroaded him, and it was just unfortunate. But that's something that is another example of the aspects of the different levels that go into how relevant and how much of a reflection music is to our culture. All right, so I am going to get into some more facts about this song here. All right, so as I stated, I'm reading from Song Facts. Song Facts is a pretty good source when it comes to the aspects of talking about things that have to do with music. All right, so Last Christmas was taken from the album Music from the Edge of Heaven, which was released in 1984. So it charted number 1 in the UK and number 3 in the US. So it was written and produced by George Michael. The song actually had very little to do with Christmas. So the song originated one Sunday in 1984 when George Michael and Andrew Ridley, the duo that comprised Wham, were visiting Michael's parents. Ridley recalled the mail on Sunday in 2017. Recalled to the mail on Sunday in 2017. I'm sorry. So he's talking about this from his point of view. This is what Ridley said. So Ridley said, we'd had a bite to eat and were sitting together, relaxing with the television on the background, when almost unnoticed, George Michael disappeared upstairs for an hour or so. So when we went back down, such was his excitement, it was as if he had discovered gold, which in a sense he had. So we went to his old room, the room in which we had spent hours as kids recording. And that's quite interesting because they were school chums, the duo in Wham, and that's interesting. So radio shows and jingles, the room where he kept a keyboard and something on which to record his sparks of inspiration. And he played me the introduction and the beginning wishful chorus melody to Last Christmas. It was a moment of wonder. George had performed musical alchemy, distilling the sense of Christmas into music. So adding lyrics which told the tale of betrayal, love, and was a masterstroke, and he did it so often he touched with the flair of touching hearts. So numerous artists covered this song, including Ashley Tisdale, Coldplay, Kim Wilde, Jimmy Eat World, and the XX, Kylie Minogue, Carly Rae Jepsen, Taylor Swift, which reached number 28 in the U.S. country chart for her version, and 2009, a version by the cast of Fox TV's Glee, which finally took the song into the Hot 100 and their rendition debut at 63. So the song did not chart on the Hot 100, U.S. Hot 100 after the initial release in 84 because it was available as a promotional, not commercially available, which that makes a whole lot of sense, because if something is just, you can't, if it's seen as something that is temporary or something that is exclusive to something, then you can only hear for so long, and then, you're like, oh, okay, you move on. So that makes a whole lot of sense why it wasn't as prominent to reach number one when it was first released. So the 7-inch single, which it was on a 7-inch single. So it was only decades later when the song started charting during the holiday season thanks to streaming counts. So until Last Christmas finally released number one in 2021, it had been the UK's best-selling single to never reach the top of the single charts. In Japan, it sold over 600,000 copies, making it the best-selling single that did not reach the country's top 10. The song's music video shows George Michael and Andrew Wrigley accompanying girlfriends to see friends at their home in a ski resort. The duo's backup of their singers, Pepsi and Shirley, also star in the clip along with Spandau Ballet bassist Martin Kemp. And it's quite interesting with the group Spandau Ballet. The frontman for it said that he got this unique name from some graffiti or something that was written in the bathroom. That's quite interesting because they got their start out as a punk rock band, and they wanted to be more mainstream and more debonair, so they crossed into being more soulful and crooner, and then shredding the ties that they had with punk, and then adding on with the mystique and the mysterious title for their band, Spandau Ballet. That's another fact on there. So, the boyfriend and future husband of Shirley Holman. The director, Andy Moran, first worked with George Michael on the Careless Whisper video, he told the Radio Times. So this is what Moran is saying. So the idea for Last Christmas developed from a conversation George came up with having with his friends, and Andrew offered some names. I suggested a montage. So they were adamant that they wanted it to be cinematic without singing in it. So you got engrossed in the narrative instead. On the surface, it's mates going on a holiday, but underneath, it's the darkness of unrequited love. That was our thought process, to have some depth beneath the glossy pop surface. And see, again, as I said before, this essentially is what makes something timeless, when you go into more depth on something instead of just sticking to a surface level aspect when it comes to certain elements or a certain dedication or how you release something when it comes to work or other aspects of life. All right, so the melody bears resemblance to Barry Manilow, as I mentioned before, in 1978, his hit single Can't Smile Without You, and the Kool and Gang's Joanna from 83. The publisher of I Can't Smile Without You, Manilow didn't write the song, took legal action against Michael, which according to Last Christmas engineer Chris Parter, was dismissed in court when Michael's team showed that many songs have a similar melody. So the song's video was the last time that George Michael was filmed without a beard. So Anthony Katrina presented Joe Hoffer, sorry for pronunciation here, which started in his 8 a.m. show on December 18th by 2015 by telling Austrians, let me say that again, Austrian listeners that he felt people in the arena not in the Christmas spirit. So then proceeded to play Last Christmas on a loop for almost 2 hours as Christmas. It's a Christmas protest. Wow, that's quite interesting. So this person, Highfire, blockaded the studio door with a wooden chair, locking out his co-host Patricia Jordan and the station producers. So the Austrian DJ eventually stopped playing the Wham tune only after his 4-year-old daughter was put on the line. She told her father that she didn't like the song. Once Festive Song finally charted the following with the unexpected death of George Michael on Christmas Day of 2016 when it debuted on Billboard's Hot 100 on the last day of January 2016. So Last Christmas reached the top of top 40 of the Billboard Hot 100 for the first time in 2 years, when it rose from 43 to 34 on the chart date in December 15th of 2018. All right, so Last Christmas reached number 1 on the UK single chart for the first time on January of 2021, 36 years after its original release in 1984. In doing so, the festive favorite broke the record for the longest time taken to reach the peak of number 1 since it was first released. Now, Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill, I Deal With God, set a new record when it climbed on the top charts in June 2022, 37 years after its release. So that, how comparison is never too late. So the two versions of Last Christmas entered the U.S. chart in 2022, and the Backstreet Boys rendition rocketed to number 1 on the Billboard Adult Contemporary Listening, entering the group their first chart topper at the radio format since '99. Meanwhile, Lauren Spencer Smith's interpretation was a Hot 100 hit. So hearing this song during the holiday season is known as getting whammed. Some folks keep track of how often it happens in charts, who gets whammed the most. Sometimes a charitable donation is involved for every whammy. So this, of course, can lead to Rick rolling, which is quite interesting. Never gonna give you up type behavior, where friends will find clever ways to make sure others participating will hear it. So whamming only appears to the original version of the song, not the covers, which is, in respect, that's the way it should be, and that's common sense the way it should be. Because if it's an interpretation, why should you give credit to someone that's not the original version? All right, so this reaches the end, and I would like to know your thoughts on this episode. Feel free to reach out to me. As I mentioned earlier in the show, the best way to do so is through email. All right, so tune in, turn up, and definitely take care. And Merry Christmas and many cheers to a new year. Bye-bye.